Your house just lost $200,000 in value. Not over years, over months. And you're definitely not alone. You know that gut punch when you're scrolling through Trade Me and see a house identical to yours listed for way less than what you paid? Same street, same layout, same everything, except the price tag that makes you want to throw your phone. Then you check the property forums. Comments like, "Just got our council valuation, officially underwater on our mortgage now." The replies pile up like a support group nobody wanted to join. "Same here, trapped. Should have kept renting." Your neighbours talking about walking away from their mortgage. Your workmate can't sleep because they're hemorrhaging money daily. That young couple down the street who were so pumped about their first home. They're packing for Australia, where houses don't cost more than small countries. For decades, we've been fed the same line. Property is bulletproof. Safe as houses. Always goes up. Get on the ladder or get left behind. We all bought it, didn't we? That owning a house was basically printing money while you sleep. Well, turns out that was complete rubbish. The Real Estate Institute data shows we're watching the biggest property market faceplant in New Zealand's history. And it's not just bad luck or timing. I'm going to show you the actual numbers. The stuff the property industry really doesn't want you thinking about too hard. By the end, you'll understand why every Kiwi family needs to know what's really happening here. Because those dropping house prices, they're showing us what happens when basic shelter gets turned into a get-rich scheme. 2021. New Zealand's median house price hit $925,000. Real estate agents were buying boats. Property investors were feeling like geniuses. Everyone was a property expert at dinner parties. Then reality showed up. House prices didn't just drop, they fell off a cliff. We're now sitting at $770,000. That's $155,000 gone. Poof. Enough to buy a decent car, pay for university, or represent years of actual work for most people. Wellington got hammered the worst, down 25% from peak. Even Auckland, supposedly the safe market, took a beating. Regional areas that were meant to be affordable also cooked. Remember signing those mortgage papers feeling like you'd cracked the code? Yeah, that confidence aged like milk. And if you think that's bad, wait until you hear what happened when the Reserve Bank tried to fix it. The interest panic. The Reserve Bank saw the carnage and basically hit the panic button. They didn't just cut interest rates. They went full chainsaw massacre on them. From 5.5% down to 3.25% in 12 months. That's a 2.25% cut. The kind of desperate move you'd expect during a proper economic meltdown. Mortgage payments that were crushing families suddenly became manageable. This should have been the moment everyone rushed back in. Cheap money, lower prices, property investor heaven, right? Wrong. House prices kept falling anyway, month after month, region after region. Gisborne, Marlborough, Wellington, Nelson, all still dropping despite borrowing being cheaper than it had been in years. The old rules just stopped working. Interest rates and house prices decided they weren't friends anymore. But here's the kicker. While the Reserve Bank was desperately trying to save the market, something else was happening that made everything worse. The Great Kiwi Exit. While house prices were tanking, New Zealanders were doing something they'd never done before, leaving in massive numbers. 127,000 people have left recently. But here's the really telling bit. 73,000 of those were actual New Zealand citizens, not students finishing up or temporary workers heading home. Proper Kiwis saying, "Nah, we're out." Every person who leaves is one less potential house buyer. Every family that relocates is potentially one more house hitting the market. The people who were supposed to be buying houses were literally walking away from the country. Look around your street. How many for sale signs have popped up? How many of those houses are empty because the owners have already moved to Australia, where they can afford to exist? This created a vicious cycle that made everything worse. The listing explosion. Something weird started happening. Properties began flooding the market like nothing real estate agents had seen before. This wasn't normal seasonal stuff. This was panic selling. People who'd been hanging onto properties suddenly decided to cut their losses and run. High listing volumes plus job uncertainty equals a buyer's market, if you can find any buyers. Properties sitting for months. Sellers dropping prices over and over just to get anyone interested. Real estate agents started using code words like motivated vendor and must sell, which everyone knows means please someone, anyone, buy this thing. But the listing flood revealed something even more concerning about New Zealand's economy. The economic reality. Behind every property market collapse is an economic story. New Zealand's was particularly grim. We managed to have the worst recession among developed countries. Real jobs disappeared, household incomes got squeezed, families faced impossible choices between keeping their house and keeping food on the table. Even people with stable jobs found their money didn't go as far. Job insecurity plus reduced buying power equals people looking overseas for better opportunities. The cruel irony? Just as New Zealand was losing its most productive people, the property market discovered that even super cheap borrowing couldn't fix fundamental economic problems. This created demographic changes that made the property decline inevitable. The demographic problem. Here's the thing that should worry everyone. The people leaving are young, skilled, and in their prime house-buying years. The people staying tend to be older and less likely to buy property. It's a brutal cycle. Potential buyers leave, so fewer people want houses. Fewer buyers means prices drop more. Dropping prices trap more people in negative equity, so more people want to leave. Meanwhile, the government's solution to labour shortages has been importing workers from countries where our cheap house prices still look expensive. These new arrivals aren't exactly rushing to buy million-dollar houses either. The demographic shift revealed the most important truth about what's really happening. The new normal, the inflation reality. Here's where it gets really ugly. When you factor in inflation, house prices have dropped back to levels not seen in over a decade. Families who bought thinking they were making smart investments discovered they'd bought at the worst possible time in modern history. Properties that were supposed to build wealth have become sources of financial stress and sleepless nights. The whole property builds wealth thing just got exposed as wishful thinking for a lot of people. This wealth destruction created opportunities that are reshaping who owns what in New Zealand. The wealth transfer. What's really happening isn't just a market correction. It's a massive wealth transfer from regular families to people with cash and patience. Investment funds and wealthy individuals are swooping in to buy properties at fire sale prices. Family homes are becoming rental properties owned by people who saw this coming and positioned themselves accordingly. Neighbourhoods that used to be full of homeowners are becoming rental territories owned by investors who recognised opportunity in other people's financial pain. We're shifting from a country of homeowners to a country of tenants, and most people don't even realise it's happening. But the biggest impact won't be felt for years. The generational shift. The real impact of this property market collapse will be measured in generations, not years. Young adults who watch their parents lose everything will think differently about property. The idea that owning a house automatically builds wealth just got shattered for an entire generation. For the first time in decades, New Zealand parents are telling their kids that renting might actually be smarter than buying, that the dreams they grew up with might actually be financial traps. But here's what makes this story bigger than just New Zealand. The world is watching. What's happening here isn't staying here. Property markets worldwide are watching New Zealand's transformation with growing concern. Australia, Canada, the UK, they're all asking the same uncomfortable question. If it can happen in stable, well-managed New Zealand, what does that mean for us? New Zealand has become the test case for what happens when property bubbles meet economic reality. We're the canary in the coal mine, and that canary is looking pretty rough right now. So what does this all mean? What now? The numbers don't lie. New Zealand has experienced the biggest property market transformation in its history, and everything suggests this is permanent change, not temporary correction. This isn't about normal market cycles. This is about the complete breakdown of the idea that property ownership automatically builds wealth. Think back to that Trade Me listing, the identical house for $200,000 less than you paid. That's not just a number. That's the end of an era where buying property was considered a no-brainer financial decision. The big question. So here's what every New Zealand family is quietly wondering. Are you going to keep waiting for prices to magically return to pre-COVID levels, or accept that this might be the new normal? Right now, everyone's watching Reserve Bank announcements, waiting to see if the government will step in. Will they let the market find its natural level, or try to prop up prices to protect existing homeowners? But here's what makes this moment historic. The entire world is watching. Other countries are studying every move because they know what happens could easily happen to them. The reality. For those experiencing major value drops, You're not alone and you didn't do anything wrong. You participated in a system everyone said was safe, that everyone said would keep growing. The real question isn't when prices will recover. It's whether New Zealand will figure out new approaches to housing that other countries might actually want to copy. Whether you hold on or make changes, you're dealing with something no New Zealand generation has faced before. This transformation isn't just changing house prices. It's potentially showing the world what happens when housing stops being about shelter and becomes about speculation. And maybe, just maybe, what emerges from this mess might actually be fairer for everyone.